Imagine Alice Cooper with about 1/100th the money.
If the Cramps had been a heavy metal band.
Crazy as H, blood-splattered, ear-splitting hilarity.
The Wizard of Oz meets splatter horror films.
The gag is, you're in the splash zone.
You're covered with goo and blood, and if you're not completely soaked, you didn't have a haunted garage show.
It's like going to a horror movie, except it's actually happening.
It's basically walking into the most brutal, gory film right in front of your face.
It was probably the best part of my life.
I think of him as a guy with commitment to his art.
That's Dookie. I mean, he wants to take it as far as he can take it.
You gotta see this band.
Wait a minute, you're gonna get this.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, it's me, Kevin Vonesper, and if you're watching this, you have found the VonPod. Oh man, we got a first today, in a way. As you saw, that's the trailer, the latest trailer for the documentary I'm creating called The Life and Slimes of Dookie Flyswatter and Haunted Garage. And I don't know if you know much about me and my creative how I process things creatively, but when I jump into a project, I work on it intensely until I hit a wall, and then I do something else for a while, and then I come back. Well, I am right in the middle of an intense edit of the documentary. I almost have an A-roll cut to work from. Things are happening, and for today on the show, for the first time, somebody who's actually in the documentary, even though we're only going to tease some of those topics because you got to watch the movie when it comes out. But we're going to talk about all kinds of things. You know, this is going to be an honest exploration into Eric Blitz's career, because every time I talk to him, I find out something new and interesting. And I'm sure I'm going to find out a lot of new and interesting things out tonight. It's the VonPod. Are you guys ready? Let's do the show.
VonPod. Welcome to VonPod. I've got chicken heads and deli creeps, scary monsters and super creeps on VonPod. You're listening to VonPod. With aliens and skunk dogs, I hope you're here to chat along to VonPod.
You can watch and chat with us live. Like and share and subscribe. It's always a surprise.
VonPod.
Hello.
Hey. What's happening?
What's up?
How
Welcome
are you?
to the show.
Thank you.
So I like to say that this show, my primary goal is to interview or talk to cult stars of the past, present, and future. Would you consider yourself a cult musician?
Yeah.
Yeah, in what way?
Well,
What
I
does that
can look
mean
at
to
it.
you?
I can look at it from two different ways. A very dear friend of mine used to say we're all minor cultural icons, being basically looking at everybody that came through the underground of various decades. And in that regard, many of us are that.
Yeah.
You were part of that.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
And there's a whole lot of people that have done really creative things that go back decades way before us that we're standing on the shoulders of.
Sure.
And also in another sense, in addition to being a musician, drummer, percussionist, I am also an occultist. So in that regard, the occulture sort of plays into everything I do, because I really believe that creativity comes from the third mind, and being able to go into one's higher self.
Wow, that just, now we can branch out even further. I don't know much about that. How do you what's the question I want to ask? How do you apply that to the art, the occult?
How would you apply it? Well, boy, we're gonna jump really fast into
Yeah.
this. If you go back and you look at many different people uh, through many years, you see things where musicians and writers were going to Tangier or Nepal, places like that. You had everybody from Angus MacLeese to Brian Jones of the Stones, Brian Geiss and William Burroughs. You have all these kind of people doing things, many decades ago. And as you go forward, there were people like Genesis P. Orridge of Throbbing Gristle and Psychic TV. And more in particular, there was a percussionist named Zev, or Stefan Weiser, who has since passed away, but he did an enormous exegesis into how percussion specifically plays into occult matters. Kabbalah, using the Kabbalah as a means of correspondences, using numerology, different materials to create rhythms and sounds that actually do stir the inner soul, sort of talking about like if you're looking at like Kundalini energy or the chakras in particular, if you've heard of that in Raja Yoga and things like that.
Sure,
There's
yeah.
different ways of pulling things into your mind and body, and through symbolism and sound, you can create these things that actually invoke a higher consciousness, and not always just within the artist making it. It can be in some very special ways that can be conveyed to an audience.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it seems like in most ritual type settings, there is like a rhythm going on,
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense. And I gotta say, I never saw Throbbing Gristle or Psychic TV, but I did see Genesis speak at my college once when I was in college.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting presentation. And definitely they talked about how the bands tried to create like I don't know what you would call it, a psychic energy or a portal into a different world through sound. And it was very interesting. I don't know. I don't have a question there, but
no, it really is. I mean, I've both seen and participated in ritualistic performances where everything gets brought, to a higher level. There's another guy out of England named Steve Hubbuck, who's a friend of mine, who actually is a metallurgist who forges cymbals and gongs, not exclusively, but in many cases, makes gongs and cymbals for ritualistic use.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't expect to go anywhere in any. You never know what you're gonna hear on the VonPod. Here, let me switch it up and ask you this.
Okay.
What is the first band you were ever in? Where and when and what was it?
Oh God.
I know, right?
That's a really hard question. Are you talking like the first group of guys that played in my parents' basement,
Yeah,
or
yeah. Let's go all the way back.
are you talking more in
Like professional
more
sense.
into the early 80s when I started playing?
Let's do both. What was the group that played in your basement? You know, what were you called and what were you doing? And
Oh
where was
God.
it?
I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and I played with some guys when I was in grade school. I don't remember the name that the group used. There were a couple of people that were very talented over many years doing other things, but don't remember a name on that.
What kind of music was it?
For the most part, it started out as a lot of cover stuff, and then I happened to find a bass player who sort of was into like Jefferson Airplane and very psychedelic stuff. And he also had an interest in a lot of what was soon to be called post-punk. And I started doing a lot of stuff where it was him on bass and myself not really playing a full drum kit, but sort of playing a couple of toms. That was when I started using sheet metal and stuff like that. And other object percussion,
right?
Which goes in. I'm going to take you on a whole different direction. When you get then as you get into the 80s, I split very early in my life to both New York and to Los Angeles. And from there took a deep dive pretty much just into the underground. It's not to say that there wasn't an underground, because as a really young kid, I had met Lee Blackchilders, who was sort of a mentor to many musicians. And there was also a guy named Bruce Woodsippi who had a band called Circle X, and they had gone to New York in the mid-late 70s, and I sort of fall in there, after them.
So in the 80s, when you were both in LA and New York?
I really, yes, I wouldn't have said I was bi-coastal, but I was certainly, as soon as I could get out of whatever there was of a very rough kind of life. I mean, growing up where I was, you walk around in what might be considered glam rock, might be considered flamboyant or gender bending. People don't, as a general rule, like you.
Yeah.
And I confused a lot of people.
Right, yeah.
The thing that was really sort of instrumental was having certain people that went to New York. And I had my cousin Casey, who's a drummer, had gone out to LA. And so I took a deep dive and went both places. And so at different times throughout my life, I've been different places for shorter, longer periods of time. I've basically, to me, New York is home. And I've been back in New York consistently since 98 or 99. And
Oh
I
wow.
spent about 7 years in LA prior to that, which is during the time when I played in Fox Twot and did
Right,
the record with
right,
Greg Ginn and that stuff.
right. In which coast did you find more of a, I don't know, community for your, the gender bending weird culture people?
For what I did, New York.
Yeah.
There's a smaller group of people, very loyal, but a smaller group of people in LA.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it has to do. LA tends to have a kind of conventional rock and roll thing, and I was someone who was, as a kid, listening to a lot of blues, a lot of R&B and stuff like that, and there was a certain sort of slinky funkiness in the music scene in New York that was a little more present
Mm-hmm.
in New York than it was in LA. That's it's really hard to say. There's in many ways, I think artists tend to find their way to New York, and there's a little more of an entertainment slant to LA.
Mm.
But I by no means am saying that's exclusive, because, as you know from talking with me, I if the weirdos were to be found in LA, I found them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You found them for sure, or they found you. Either way.
Yeah, one way or the other. I mean, it in a sense, it's like, in one way you had the Warhol people in New York, and you had the Cockettes on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's I'm just sort of using that as a way of, they were similar yet different, and depending upon the year and time, some things were stronger in one and maybe not so much in the other, and vice versa.
So let me ask you a little bit about old 80s New York, because that's obviously, we live here now. I was too young in the 80s to go out to clubs, but what clubs were you playing, and are any of them still around today?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Was it like
in New York,
Danceteria?
the first real gig I played in New York would have been CBGB's, and honestly, I played one of the closing shows of CBGB's, which was really
I was at one of those. I was at one of those last 3 Bad Brains shows.
Yeah, the False Prophets, who I was playing with in New York, were one of the bands that was asked to play at the end of the time of Hilly, when CB's was going to close. And it was really something, because what had happened was there had been a show many years earlier of the Dead Kennedys and of False Prophets, and the same bill happened again in
2006, I would say,
6 or whatever it was, when CB's was closing, and we did the False Prophets and Dead Kennedys together there again, which was really weird. I have some very nice pictures from that, and a really, just a little aside here. I was talking with DH, their drummer, after the show, and we were
incredible drummer.
He's an incredible drummer and was an incredible man, nonetheless. and he plays a part in when I cleaned up off the hard drugs. So
Oh,
that's
wow,
going to come
cool.
into another part of this.
Right, right.
But we were like outside of CBGB's that night, and there were young kids who were like us at another time, who wanted to get in that couldn't get in. So we cracked open the back door and let them in like it was
Yeah,
another
punk
time and
rock
place.
style. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were like walking up and down Bowery after the show, and we're like, hey, you remember when we used to walk down here and like, have to, jump over the bum trying to score drugs, and now it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, which New York do you prefer? Is it too clean
Honestly,
now? It was too dirty then? Like, where's the middle ground
do
there?
you want my personal opinion? I can give
Sure.
it to you in a really clear way.
Of course.
A lot of people would tell you that right around the corner from where CBGB's was, on 3rd Street, was where the Hells Angels had their headquarters. It was the safest block on the Lower East Side.
Right.
I feel, and this is me personally, I felt safer around all of the craziness of the old days. I at least knew when I was dealing with a psycho in New York or in Hollywood, I knew what I was dealing with. When you've got millionaires that are doing corporate crime and God knows what else, and have the money to buy themselves out of anything they do, that scares me a little more.
Right.
Yeah, I would, big cities were tough in the 80s and the 90s, but but I'd much rather have that and know what I'm facing than a lot of this sort of just white collar crime that goes on here now.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't think being able to afford a home should really have to be what it is from most people now.
Yeah, it's a fucking mess is what it is.
Yeah.
I just want to comment and say that I did get to see DH play at least once. Not, obviously not the original DK, but the more recent version. What an incredible
where they've had, I think they've had 4 or 5 different guys do vocals over the years, but
oh yeah, I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
but it was the other 3 original guys.
Yeah, yeah. What was, it was a lot of fun to see them. The guy who sang with them on the night that we did the show in 2006 was really good, but it sounded like the DKs. It was like DK karaoke, and
Right,
I'm probably going to catch all kinds of hell from somewhere.
No, it is what it is. I mean, you can't replace Jello Biafra. It's just like he's too much of a unique personality. It's, it's just like you shouldn't even try. I mean, yes, do the music, but like don't try to be him. Just be, I guess, yourself as a new singer, I would say. And the same for when the Bad Brains didn't have, HR or whatever.
Yeah, but the thing I'll say this in defense of the Bad Brains, when they had varying lineups, it was really clear that they were gonna go a little bit where those guys were gonna go. It wasn't like, oh well, we're gonna have one sound and one style that fits all, and everybody had to kind of be just like HR or like or Earl when Earl wasn't in the group for a while. It could be a slightly different thing, but still be very much the group and as powerful.
Yeah. What is the most punk rock show you've ever seen? I know that's a crazy question.
I would.
And which coast did it better?
Well, I would say this. I got to see the Stones a few times. In the mid latter part of the 70s. That certainly would have qualified by my understanding. Probably from the most punk rock in the sense of just complete mayhem was the final G.G. Allen show.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah, I almost got plowed into the wall.
Wow.
If a friend of mine had not picked me up, Gigi was running at me as fast as he could, and had they not picked me up like a sack of potatoes, I would have just gone splat.
And that was in New York, right? Where was that again? What venue was that?
That was at a place called the Gas Station, or 2C.
Did you were you a fan of G.G. Allen, or how did you end up there?
I liked him. I liked what he did. There was also a band called Black Rain that played on the bill, who I really liked. So it was a really interesting sort of night. I don't think anyone expected that it would turn into what it did, but that definitely, I would say that certainly qualifies. And I guess, in just because I would say in a very general way, certainly seeing the Ramones early on was very punk.
Oh, cool. Where did you see them?
Some of the early Iggy tours were really incredible. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because it's like what your definition of punk is. I'm often accused of being too arty.
Yeah, I hear that. So you must, I mean, I think I know the answer to this. You must know Tony Mann. Did you know him back then?
Of course I know Tony Mann.
Yeah, because he used to play with G.G. Allen.
Yeah.
Not at the end, but back when he was beginning more musical style of G.G. Allen.
Yeah, Tony's a great drummer and a really great guy.
Yeah, I got to get him on the show. I'm sure he's got a lot of crazy stories too.
Yeah, he absolutely does.
Did you ever see his monster band where he dresses like as those crazy monsters?
I've seen Tony in any number of
I think they were called the Flying 69s or something like that.
That sounds about right.
They were like dressed as these monster like robots or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, he's certainly found his way through a lot of different things.
Yeah. Okay, well maybe it's time to talk about shock rock bands.
Okay.
So obviously, I'm doing this documentary about Dookie Fly Swatter, and you were in this band with him called Fox Twot.
Yeah.
Without getting too far into the story, because we gotta let them watch the documentary when it comes out. Can you give us a little taste of what that was, and I guess what your relationship to like the shock rock scene is beyond that?
Well, to be very, as a kid, I was very much into obviously Bowie and Lou Reed, the Velvets, the Stooges, Arthur Brown, all any number of this kind of stuff. And I'm a huge Cramps fan, so I guess
Yeah.
that sort of gives you some
That's the
idea.
whole
And I mean,
background. Yeah, yeah.
so there was, there's a lot to draw from. In that Foxtrot was a really interesting band, and in general, band performance event. It was a very gender bending group, which is, the tagline was not bad for a bunch of girls.
Yeah.
The story was, we were an all-girl band, escaped from somewhere in the Midwest, and this is what we did.
Madison, Wisconsin.
Yes, it was. You remember?
Oh yeah.
I knew it was somewhere in Wisconsin.
I've been editing a lot, so.
And that band had not only the band members, but it also had somewhere between 7 and 9 performers that would basically act out these psychodramas.
Yes, the psycho dance troupe, right?
Psycho dance troupe.
Yeah.
Indeed. And we had one show where there were a ton of us on and in front of the stage. And we did one show one night with just one performer who absolutely pulled out every stop in the book with Dookie. And, we had everything from, Dookie having his cock played to,
with the
Roman
contact
candles, etc., and so forth.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or some type of thing was sparkling up front while
yeah.
Dookie's pants were down. I was always like 2 feet away, and like, only because you had the good fortune of finding video of the band, I was able to see what it looked like.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Because my perspective from the drums is very, it was, I knew what was going on, but I had, I was cueing the band, cueing dancers, and trying to somehow perform in the midst of all of this. And everyone did that in the band. I'm not saying I directed everything, because it was far from it. Everyone was a star in that band, and everyone directed it. If we didn't have it that way, I think we would have imploded on stage, because so much was going on. You never knew what was suddenly going to be in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Here I have a little bit of visuals. I think that's the only picture I could find with you actually in it.
Wow.
Have you seen this before? Do you know this guy, Jose?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. He has pictures of me. I played at one time with Pissant. I think you know Josie, who was one of the Gorgor girls.
Yes.
And
one of the best interviews too.
Yeah, she fronted a band, and I think still fronts a band.
Sometimes
I should have sent you the photo I have of that, but
I did find a video. But...
Yes, there's a very good video of us playing in the back of a warehouse that Lewis took. As a matter of fact, I think it was it might have been the first time I played with them.
Oh, cool.
But I'm really glad to know it's out there. One of the unfortunate things. Oh, there's Connie Sir.
Yeah. Let's see. I think these are Tracy's pictures. Okay, there's not, being the drummer in the back, I couldn't.
Yeah,
there's not as many
think,
pictures of you.
Yeah, the only really
get a sense of the craziness.
Yeah, there's Gabby, there's Dookie. Before me there was Joey, who'd been in Love Hate, and then I came in behind Joey.
There's some flyers I found.
As a matter of fact, I remember I remember this show very well. The flyer that you have for Fox Twot Rosemary's Billy Goat, third grade teacher and fearless leader. Yeah, that's a video you have.
That's that's the Spaceland one.
That's the Spaceland video you have.
Yeah,
Wow, that's kind of cool to see.
I was in Rosemary's Billy Goat.
That's what you
Not at the
told me.
time. Much later.
Yeah.
Tell me about these other bands. What's third grade teacher and fearless leader? Were they cool? Do you remember them at all?
Third grade teacher was really interesting. One of the I think it was the lead singer was a third grade teacher. They were really a good band to play with and a lot of fun as people. Fearless leader, I remember them. I can't remember who was in it, unfortunately.
And then this other Stinky's Peep Show. Let's see who you played with here. Romeo's Dead, Count Dante, and the Black Dragon Fighting Society. That sounds interesting.
I think this might have been the last. I'm not sure whether Joey did that one or not. I don't know. I can't be sure of the one on the left. I know I played on the show on the right.
Oh yeah, this was at the Covered Wagon Saloon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about that place.
Yeah, that was an interesting place to do shows.
Yeah, I heard it was like a gay cowboy bar, I heard, right?
Mhm.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have the Cock in New York and the Covered
Yeah.
Wagon in San Francisco.
Yeah. That's like where Guar did one of their first shows in the area too.
Right.
The person who used to book shows there became their manager.
Right.
I don't know. Just fun facts. Fun facts for you guys on the VonPod.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm working on the documentary, guys. I'm like crunching on it. It's going well. That's gonna be my big summer project to try to get that in shape. And I'm excited about it. And that's all I have to say about that.
Cool.
What let's see. What do you think you're most known for? Or the most people would know you from?
God.
And
I
guess
would.
And then I have a part B to that.
Probably. You know what? They're all from different things. I would
Yeah.
say if it were in sort of the death rock punk scene, I would have said Kommunity FK.
Right.
You know, Greg Ginn's record, Let It Burn, that I played on is probably a higher point of that.
Well, let's talk about those bands for a little bit. Tell me a little bit about. So I know the name Kommunity FK. I think I might have even filmed them once in New York. But tell me a little bit.
The only shows that happened with that band in New York, I played.
Really?
Yeah, that I know.
What date? Like, what were the range of dates you were in that band?
That would have been in the 90s. The really big show at the Limelight was 94 and 95.
Yeah,
and,
I wish I could have seen that. I've only been to the Limelight as a mall.
I should have sent you. There's the lineup that we had for that at that particular time was obviously Pat Mata, myself, Shane Talada, who's to this day still a good friend of mine who played keyboards, Johnny and Vidino on bass from Human Drama. And I'm trying to think of who else. Am I leaving anyone out?
I don't know much about their history. Yeah,
It was Pat had the band going for years, and it kind of had a revolving door.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But did they start where, in LA or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And So, I mean, I was really fortunate. I think working with, that was a really, that was a really good experience. One of the bands that I played in for a while that I actually regret that I
Oh,
left was a band called Cockfight that had Rebecca from Frightwig and her husband, and
Frightwig, another band that
Candy
used to play
Seven
with
and Rita
Tiki.
D'Albert. And
Hmm.
what was really interesting about that group was in the very early 90s in LA, there was this sort of Cockfight sort of was like if Miles Davis had joined the Stooges. And it really was a starting point of where a lot of my more jazz or experimental type work started to really come to the fore of my mind, that
Hmm.
eventually I was going to move more in that direction.
Yeah.
And that group certainly gave me, certainly was a gateway to making that move.
So here I found it. Check this out. I am pretty sure not only was I here, I'm pretty sure I filmed it and it's in a box somewhere. This is Halloween, October 31st, 2015.
I was long out of it by then. So I guess
Yeah.
they did come back to New York. I would have been out of it by then.
Yeah. And I
I
definitely
was,
wasn't around in the 90s, I wish, but this
no,
is more my
this is much
speed.
later. I didn't realize they'd played again. So no, I'm not in that. I can see just from looking at the photo, I can see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
So
you
I did see them once, I think.
if you go on Shane Talada's Instagram, there's a flyer for the Limelight show.
Okay, let me just look that up. Let's see. I'll take this off. But yeah, there you go. God Module. They're still around. Community. You didn't play on any of their records or anything, did you?
I played on some recordings, but not on the
Okay.
records. Not on the
Gotcha.
records that are they're known for now.
Mm-hmm. I really know them mostly because Deadsy covered one of their songs, and I'm a big Deadsy fan.
Yeah. For the most part, one of the things with me was sometimes they call people like me a journeyman, because
Mm-hmm.
I was always the guy that came in when somebody left or somebody
Right.
couldn't cut the gig. So I've ended up doing a lot of gigs with a lot of different people for shorter amounts of time,
Mm-hmm.
which in one way worked really to my advantage because I could do a lot of different things. But I'm not one of these guys that can go, oh, I'm identified with
Mm-hmm.
this band.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's why it was so hard to like label you for this show, because you're in
Yeah,
like
I
100
mean,
different bands.
it's like a lot of people remember the stuff I did with False Prophets,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, an interesting thing that about that is now with the Blitz Lady Sloan, which started as a free jazz duo, is now a trio. Mark Sloan had been in False Prophets, but at a different time than me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like as the lineup as he was leaving, I was coming in with another bass player.
You can check them out on Bandcamp.
Yes, that's the record that actually comes out on Saturday.
Gotcha. So what? Okay,
And
well, I know we're skipping around like crazy, but like, what's the deal? What is this? It's
okay,
more of your like free jazz sort of projects, right?
okay, here's the best way to explain it. Andy, ladies, and myself and his wife Rebecca Migdal started. At the time, everybody was involved with World War III Illustrated, the political comic book that Seth Tabachman and Peter Cooper and Christoph Kohlhofer started in '79. I started doing performances with Seth, playing live with an ensemble while he did his slideshow, because at a point in about 2002, I'd said I wanted to do music where I felt I could be really creative. I could speak politically to what I believed in, and it could be multimedia in a way where it would be a very encompassing type thing that people could really take something away from.
Mm-hmm.
And what had happened is in the course of doing that show, Andy Latiez came around and had gotten involved with Rebecca and was playing saxophone with her. And he and I realized that we were both big fans of the Dada movement, which predates the Surrealists. And he said, I always had performed the Sonata, which is a sound poem that Kurt Schwitters wrote 100 years ago. So Andy and I and Rebecca put together what was the Sonata Orchestra. In the course of that group, we've had anywhere from performances with 3 people to 17 people. Eventually, my wife and partner in crime, Jennifer, is one of the vocalists in that. And so we had done that group for close to 15 years.
Wow.
And I'd been doing the show with Seth for 22 now. With orchestra, it got to a point where we did a really amazing recording that came out about a year ago, where we worked with Carl Berger, who had played with Eric Dolphy and John McLaughlin, and Ingrid Sertso is his wife. She was on it as well, doing voices with Jennifer and Rebecca. And Andy had said about 14 years ago in an interview that what was on your bucket list, and he said, I want to make a duo record with Eric Blitz. Well, that finally came to pass this year, and we've finally done it.
Gotcha. And that's coming out Saturday.
Yes, that's coming out Saturday. And both Seth Tabachman's multimedia show, Continuity of Struggle, also has Andy Latiez, myself, and Mark Sloan, and Jennifer also does vocals in that performance too.
And what that band is it also like
both
a free
groups.
jazz?
What now?
That band, what kind of music is that one?
Which one?
Continuity of Struggle, is that what it's called?
Continuity of Struggle. I sent you a track of that. That is the ensemble that plays behind the spoken word artist and activist Seth Tabachman. Continuity of Struggle is a show that we put together in 2002 to be a way of him showing his slideshow with a live performance. And we were asked a few months back if we would contribute a track to a compilation record. So we went in and we recorded 2 tracks, one of which will be coming out on a compilation by a group of people that call themselves Peacemonger. That same ensemble is Blitz Ladies Sloan, which is more of an improvisational duo and trio. So on Saturday, in addition to there's going to be a poet that's going to speak first, a guy, Mohammed Sinai, and his partner, and then we're going to do the Continuity of Struggle show with the multimedia show, and that will be followed by a duo, trio, quartet version of the Blitz Ladies Sloan, which is more an improvisational group that Andy and I's background runs from the gamut of many years of avant-garde music. So some of it is very like AACM free jazz style stuff, and some of it's a little more like a gotta quieter sort of Eastern John Cage kind of thing. Andy plays the Japanese shakuhachi as well, and that's got a very woody tone. A lot of that has a lot of percussion in it. That group is one of the groups that works in a very sort of on a very sort of spirit current. It's very much a third mind kind of group.
Well, here it is.
That's probably more than you needed to know.
At what, the Pit? What is this venue?
It's called Property is Theft. Yeah, it's called Property is Theft. It's a record store and bookstore and activism center that's run by Jim McHugh. And it's just a really great space to do things.
Well, if I can make it, I'll try to be there. Cool. Let me go backwards a little bit, because I wanted to touch on this for sure. You mentioned this Greg Ginn album.
Yes.
How did you get involved with Greg Ginn, and what was it like working with him? Because he's one of those guys that everyone's got a story about, or
the way the Greg Ginn story came, there's, in addition to all the drummers that I admire and love throughout my life that have influenced me, two people that were very directly involved in my life and my career. One was my cousin Casey Sherrill, and the other is a drummer named Jimmy Hunter. Jimmy Hunter was the producer of this album with Spot. And,
oh wow, the legendary Spot.
Yeah, and so Jimmy had engineered and produced the initial tracks. And he's a guy, Jimmy had played with Ray Manzarek and Nick Gilder and a lot of people like that. And he became a very good friend of mine many years ago. And in recording a group that I was in called Floor Show, we became very good friends. A few years later, he comes to me and he says, look, Greg's got this record he's working on. Did I want to play on it? And so, all of the drumming and the drum programming, at least on all but two of the tracks, are split between myself, Jimmy, and another guy named Greg. But this was a really important moment for me as far as like having something out there. Working with Greg was really cool.
Yeah.
I could talk with him about old Stax and Chess records and old jazz musicians as quickly as I could talk about old punk rock bands.
Right.
So I had He was very laid back and very nice. I have no bad experience with him whatsoever. Everything's been really good. I did not do the tour. I just did the record.
Right on. Nice. Greg Ginn, the famous Greg Ginn. I did see him play with Black Flag once at what used to be called the Grand Victory in Williamsburg. Very small place for them. Yeah, I played there once too.
Right.
Good times. And I think he's still doing it, the Black Flag thing.
I don't know what he's doing. The last thing I knew of him, he was doing a lot of cat rescue, and I'm a huge proponent of cats and rats. So, you know, I wish him all the best. I think he's in Texas somewhere.
Gotcha. Let me ask you the other side of my question. What, if anything, do you think is the work you're most proud of personally that you've done?
That I'm most proud of?
Yeah. Or there's the most
always,
you?
Always, I answer this really easily. The most recent thing I've done. You know, I think I'm especially proud of the Blitz Ladies and Blitz Ladies Sloan and Orchestra, because those are groups, along with Continuity of Struggle, that I was a founding member of. So I've got a stake in this that's really special to me. I get to sort of have the music, the spirit, and the politics that goes through all of this. So those are, you know, to me, it's like that's always I'm most connected to thing in the moment. That said, I'm also the guy that agonizes over the most recent thing I've done. It usually takes me a decade to listen to something I've done before I realize that it's okay. But you know, there's all kinds of things through different stuff I've done. Fox Twot was a great high point. Getting to do noise gigs with Black Leather Jesus with contact mic drums and stuff was really amazing. The experimental duo I have with Jennifer, Astral Knife, I'm really proud of. That's all instrumental, and then some of it actually early on had a lot of vocals in it, but she's taken to doing a lot of mixing and remixing in recent years. And so that's kind of done its own thing. But I guess the other thing I'm really proud of, I did a few gigs with Pete Missing and Missing Foundation. I'm really proud of those, although it was very short the time that I did it. I've contributed some drum tracks to work that Pete's working on in the present. I don't know anything about what's going to become of it, but I'm definitely proud that I have had the opportunity to work with him throughout the course of my life.
Nice. Here, let's see what I missed here. I just like this picture that I found of you. Where is this? Is this C Squat? Or
no, that's in the back of ABC. No,
that's
Rio.
what I was thinking of. ABC No Rio. I knew it was one of those DIY punk spots.
Here's the story of that. Back in the 80s, I knew a graffiti artist named Sane Smith. And that is one of Sane's original pieces. And Sane and his brother back in '89 tagged the Brooklyn Bridge. And I'm not going to get too deep into this, but Sane ended up floating in the water. he's somebody that just did really incredible graffiti work in the old days. It's kind of like, and so as when No Rio was sort of going through its, you know, they thought they were going to tear it down from the inside and rebuild it. I needed a photo of me in front of one of Saint's pieces. And so that's what that is.
You know, I only went to ABC Del Rio once, I think. It's yeah.
It was that was a really great
Is
place.
it still there? Can't be, right?
No.
Yeah. What's there now?
I'll just, my understanding was they got the money to rebuild it from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
So basically they're building something around it and then they're going to tear down the inside. But I haven't talked to Steve Englander in some time about where they are in the history of or the process of what they're doing with this. There's been a whole lot of back and forth that yes, it will reopen one day. I just hope that does happen.
Yeah. That's, I mean, all the seems like all the DIY punk spots are in Brooklyn now. That was like in Manhattan.
Well, you know, at the same time, I'll tell you something that I hadn't mentioned. One of the groups that myself and Jennifer play with some regularity is this group called the Head Peddlers. They're kind of like a real sort of Lou Reed, Rolling Stones kind of Lower East Side group. And we've done a number of gigs, both in the community gardens, but at a bar called Lucky that Abby Amon runs down on Avenue B. And she's had gigs there periodically. And the same with Hecate, which is the sober bar across the street. So there are, you know, there are some places in the city to play, which, you know, the Parkside Lounge is still there.
Mm-hmm. I may end up there this
Otto's
weekend.
is still around.
Yeah, Otto's.
Yeah. And then you have, you know, then you do have places like Bowery Electric with Jesse Malin, you know, had a lot to do with. And, you know, Jesse's
I think they
always been.
I think the Joey Ramone tribute is happening there soon, but I think it's sold out already.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Jesse likes the cool factor where he overbooks his own clubs because it's cool, even though they could fit into a bigger venue.
Yeah, Jesse's one of the greatest. He's somebody that you want to keep good vibes out there for. He's
struggling.
Yeah,
with some struggles. I mean, I don't know him personally. I think I met him once, but I'm well aware of him and his clubs and what he does. You know.
Yeah, he's he's kind of the mayor of the neighborhood in a sense.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we've probably crossed paths in the same room with him before we knew each other too, because I used to do those Stephen Blush interview shows. You know, I used to be his cameraman, and they were always at Jesse Malin clubs.
Right. Yeah, he's somebody that's really kept everything going. While you're talking about old clubs, one of the things I'll just throw in, about the same time that CB shut down, so did Tonic, which was like the free jazz CBGBs.
Part of it, yeah.
So it was kind of and now that for some reason my mind is on 2006.
Yeah, and the Continental, we'll put that in there too.
Continental, the block is gone.
I know, what the hell?
I mean, you know, it was one thing, the parking lot became a big fishbowl, and now now the actual part of Third Avenue there is just gone.
That's crazy, man. See, I saw a little bit of it before. You know, I wasn't there in the 80s and the 90s, but I still experienced these clubs before some of them before they went bye-bye or turned
You know?
into high-end fashion stores like the John Barbados.
It was really a thing where I've kind of been, it was like when I had, you know, when I was doing the time in LA, it's like there was a lot of neat things happening, and that kind of wound down. And at the same time in New York, sort of, you know, similar things were both starting up and shutting down at the same time. It's kind of a weird, I think we're in a time where things are, there's it's a smaller scene, which is to me more like the old days.
Yeah, punk rock is not supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be sort of small and community.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what, and that was the same, you know, that's the same thing whether you're doing jazz or any other type of music or art, the whole thing. And it's even like when you talk about any number of the groups now that are lionized on from anywhere, had you seen them at another time, and you've experienced this yourself, it's like, you know, no, there weren't 1,000 people to see this or that band in 1985.
Yeah.
Or whatever year you want to throw out there. And, you know, now there's a whole thing where there's a lot of nostalgia, and some of these bands do really well.
Yeah, the Dead Boys are playing.
Yeah, they actually aren't half bad. Having seen the original Dead Boys and having seen the way they're playing in more recent time, it's actually pretty great.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I gotta check out the dates. I know they're sold out a show at Mercury Lounge. That's like really small for them. That would be really cool.
I saw them at Bowery Electric a couple of years ago.
Nice. Yeah. See, Jesse Malin with the cool factor.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's see. I know you had mentioned before DH and how he helped you out. Do you want to go into that, or do you think that's a subject we want to talk about here?
I can, if it. I mean,
because that's a whole nother rabbit hole, I'm sure. You know.
The short of the best answer to this is at the present day, I do some advocacy counseling work as a recovery coach. I've been clean off of smack for coming up now in 24 years.
Nice.
So yeah, I can tell you this now, with only one or two exceptions, all of my drum idols are not alive anymore, and many personal friends from both LA and New York aren't here anymore because of drugs or HIV or hepatitis C. And so those that are still around, you must appreciate them.
Yeah,
appreciate them when they're still here, because you know, when they're when they're gone, all you've got is the records.
Right. Yeah, and
You know
that's
what?
a big theme in the documentary too, you know, and you're part of that section for sure. That one of Dookie's biggest legacy is keeping all those addicts and drunks alive all these years, you know, being a central force in that.
That was Foxtrot was a great gig for that because while the band was by no means a sober band, there were members in the band that were clean and sober. So,
And you
and
made
the
fun of it
one,
on stage,
of
which is great.
course, I mean, we did, you know, we had the song Bill W. that was
Yeah, I'm
a
Bill
blast.
Wilson.
And, you know, we were drinking, you know,
It's kind of like
cherry soda or whatever.
Alice Cooper, you know, he always said, if you can't laugh about it, you can't get over it.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's like I spent the better part of my youth on sort of a death trip. So I'm pretty glad to you know, be around and see people that are thriving.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna say a whole lot about this, but one of the people, Hunt Sales, was a really big influence on me as a drummer.
Tin
Another guy
Machine.
who's really not only an amazing drummer and human, but he's, you know, pulled his shit together and has been very open about it. And
Do you know him,
it's
or
very cool for me to see.
have you ever met Hunt Sales?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Hunt Sales. Go listen to some Iggy Pop and Tin Machine.
Yeah. Listen to his solo records.
Listen to his
He's
solo
got a
records.
soulful voice. He used to have
No, I didn't
Hunt
know that.
Sales in the Big 7 and the Big 9.
There you go.
He's a soul man.
He's a soul man.
He
So I
is
do want
indeed.
to, yeah, at some point transition into this new art project that you just sent me today. But is there any other? I know you've been in like a million bands, and if we talked about all of them, we'd be here for a week. Is there any other highlights you want to touch on before we move on?
You know what? I think I put a list on Facebook of pretty much everyone I've done. It's like
It's a lot. It's a
really
lot of
proud
bands.
of a sound. I'm really proud of a sound collage I did on Cult of Youth's record. Sean Reagan is a good friend of ours who is in Berlin now. And I was very fortunate to be asked to do a sound collage with some other people on one of their records. I'm proud of that. I don't know. I think in the moment, I don't want to leave this out at all. I spent some time playing in the Robert Kennedy assassination.
Yeah, what's that about?
That was Rob K from the Work Dogs, Kai Eric from Club 57, and Tav Falco and Panther Burns, Jack Martin from the Knoxville Girls, Andrew Cushion from the Hellhounds, and myself. And we have some music up on Bandcamp. There's also an album out that's the comedy of Rob K that goes through all of Rob's incarnations of the Work Dogs and different things. And the lyrics are set into the way of Dante's Inferno. And the last track on the record is Heaven. And there you go. Obviously, you can get the idea we were not proponents of Trump and or Fox News.
Yeah.
But I was really fortunate to
50th anniversary. Of the shooting, not the band.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true.
Gotcha.
We've been that group was really I guess if I had to say a high point that you're going to bring up here, I'm going to say the Robert Kennedy assassination is still, bar everything I've done, shy of the things, like very much in the present. RKA is some of the best people and some of the best musicians I've ever worked with. And I'm really proud of the band. I hope one day that Rob puts that band back into action. It's just the best way I could describe it. If Haunted Garage was the Cramps as a heavy metal band, the Robert Kennedy assassination would have been the Cramps if they were a soul band.
Gotcha.
And it's a lot of rhythm and blues, rockabilly, soul, with a whole lot of New York cool.
And it's not active at the moment, because
It's not at the moment, but Rob reserves the right at any given time to call us back to active duty.
Sure.
And I'm always hoping that it did. The predecessor drummer in that band was Deep Hop, who was a very dear old friend of mine, and Jennifer and I both, but an old friend of mine. And Dee recommended me for that band. And I'm still to this day very proud of it.
Nice.
Yay!
Yay. All right. Should we talk about the...
Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna turn this over. Jennifer's
yes, let's talk about the comic book.
Been sort of documenting our life, and she's not only a really great singer, but she's a fabulous painter and artist and partner in crime, and she's collaborated with Clayton Patterson, the photographer and historian, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Awesome. Hello.
Hi.
And fellow blue-haired person at the moment. And fellow blue-haired person.
Yeah. That's right.
I don't know if you can see it in this light, but I just got my hair did.
I can see it when the light hits it.
Yeah, let me put a flashlight on it.
An indigo, practically.
Yeah, it's a little darker because it's mixed with the black, but yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you. Faye and Phantom in New Jersey.
Yeah. So wait, what? I'm sorry, what?
My friend at Faye and Phantom in New Jersey did it, so I'm giving them a shout out.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is this? What is happening here? Is
well,
that you?
Let's see. The first one, Protected by Rage, that was a t-shirt design I did. It's on TeePublic, and the comic page is the latest inked page from Lost City, which is an ongoing project that I've been working on. Clayton Patterson, the photographer, wanted to collaborate on something, and we were talking about different ideas about how the city is being lost to gentrification, and in addition to that, me and Eric went through a phase of being homeless, and so the story is going to be a fictionalized version of what happened during that period, also talking about these other things. Oh, and that's a painting.
Oh, so these aren't actually from the comic book, but they're examples of your work.
The one comic page is from the comic book.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the black and white with the gray markers.
Yeah, right here.
That I keep pointing at it like people can see what I'm pointing at. Yeah, the one that's a full comic page is
gotcha.
It's got the cat and the rat, and everything's like an allegory with talking animal characters, you know.
So how far along is this, and what's the plan for it?
It's still in pretty early stages, and I've been putting it up both on Instagram and TikTok, and people seem to like it, which I'm glad of. So ultimately,
TikTok,
I'd
wow.
like to collect the story in a book. I mean, I'm still sort of at the beginning of it. I'm, maybe 15 pages in.
Is it all scripted out, or is it an ongoing process?
Ongoing process.
Mm-hmm.
I have my diaries from that time that I can refer back to for different things that happened.
And what's the vibe? Is it like, it sounds like a serious subject matter, but is it also like a funny kind of comic book, or is it all pretty
So far this
serious?
one hasn't been that funny.
Yeah.
It's I'm hesitant to call it slice of life because there's some fictionalized stuff, or some people are protected and everybody's protected by being an animal head,
Gotcha. And what kind of animal are you?
I'm a rat.
You're a rat.
I'm a rat girl, so I'm a rat.
Where can people find it? What's your Instagram or TikTok?
Okay, they're both J Gonzalez Blitz, and that's either on Instagram or TikTok. I've got the same name on both.
I'll add it to the description underneath here.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Nice.
And what else?
I don't know. You tell me.
You've got work up. Tell them about you got added to the permanent collection at Hackett.
Yeah, the painting you just showed, the red one, that's now up at Hecate. It's part of their permanent art collection, though things on that art collection are still available for sale if anyone really wants to live with that on their wall.
Yeah, so what are we looking at here?
would.
What is this? It looks like there's 4 legs.
Yeah, it's just sort of an alternate sort of way of being. Why is it 4 legs? It just came to me. And it's kind of goes from my own sickness, the stuff that's in my head, things I see
Gotta
a
get
lot
it
and
out.
I just paint them. Yeah, I get it out. I'd rather like the person viewing it be able to take something from it than me explain, oh, this
Right.
represents this.
Sure.
And
Here, I'm adding
that's,
you. You are now
Sorry.
part of the crawl. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm part of the crawl and
Linktree/J Gonzalez Blitz.
yes. And
Yeah, find it all there.
And just like I'm part of some of the groups that Eric works with.
Yeah. Are you gonna be singing on Saturday or doing any trickery?
I'll probably be doing some vocal stuff. It's, not exactly singing, it's just sort of
Right,
vocalization.
sure.
Yeah, just noise.
Yeah, I did listen to the track for a little bit. Those are long songs. They're like 20 minutes long.
Oh yeah, they're spoken word pieces.
Yeah.
And one of them has a musical interlude. I used to sing. I used to have a band, but I had a couple bands.
What was your band, or what kind of music did you play?
It was I had a band called Ms. Pac-Man in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Man, that sounds familiar.
Huh?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, because it's also a video game. That's what
Well,
everyone
obviously,
heard of.
yeah, of course. I mean, as a punk band or whatever.
Yeah, it was very garage punk girl band kind of stuff, And that one was funny.
And was that in New York? Were you always in New York?
Yeah, that was in New York. Yeah,
Nice.
I haven't been on the West Coast.
Right.
But that was in New York. And Eric, you want to come sit here with me?
Yeah, I'll come back in.
I'm not sure what else to talk about.
No, I mean.
Well, thank you. Yes, go check out your art
I need more questions too.
I mean, basically the I think a big reason for wanting to have her speak a bit on this. With the Lost City that she's doing, there had been, when Clayton was first talking about working on this project, the idea was, well, what happens as bohemians that are, 60, approaching 60, or anybody that's just older in general that's done this all their lives, and you're in a big city that's gentrifying. What are the trials and tribulations that one goes through to be able to maintain your life? And especially when, like, if you have tragedies strike, or setbacks of any sort. And that's part of the of Lost City, is kind of telling, well, everybody still has to get along and get by. And that's what Clayton, I think, really wanted to get across working with Jennifer, that, we've seen so many different people as they've aged as a minor cultural icon or whatever, that things become very hard because, let's face it, there's, no one's rolling in the money.
Right. Yeah.
So somebody's got to, be looking out for people. I mean, there are certainly people like Music Cares and the Howl Emergency through Actors Fund, and these different people at Sweet Relief, these groups that do things to help musicians and artists in crisis, be that, drugs or just life in general. And in having conversations about that with Clayton, that's a little more of the conversations that led into Jennifer and Clayton talking about collaborating on this.
Nice.
And since a good part of a particular period in my life comes through this, I think it's another way for someone to see exactly what someone who's been through the shock rock underground but still had to deal with the shock and awe of surviving, in the music art underground.
Is it going to have a soundtrack? You're going to create a comic book soundtrack for it?
Who knows?
That might be fun to do.
It's an idea, right?
I could see that happening.
Package it together.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
There are songs on it on TikTok.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. Are you requesting it?
Yes, I'm requesting it.
Nice.
Then from your mouth to our ears.
I'll buy one.
Yeah, anything that gives that sparks an idea to record some more.
Right.
One of the things that I regret is very little of my early career, like late 70s through the earlier part of the 80s, is just not well documented.
Right.
That I'm always happy when something turns up. So that's why I've sort of, anything now that sparks the idea of recording, I just record and document everything now.
Yeah, and the technology's there where we can do it, from home.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, ideally, the project that is online, or not online, but in our minds to do, is with Continuity of Struggle, as we recorded these 2 tracks. Ideally, what we would like to do is have a DVD audio disc that let you put it in and hear the track and see the art at the same time, just as you would if you came to see us live.
Right.
And the technology, I'm told, is either there or very close to it. So that's one of my goals in the coming next months, are to get Seth and Mark and Andy and Jennifer back into the studio and do some more stuff, and maybe actually have a full presentation that someone could have as a product.
Yeah. Awesome. Here, let's start landing this plane, and let me ask you this. How or where did you get the name Blitz?
It is my name.
Is it really? That's an awesome name.
It's a wonderful name.
I mean, it's so like punk rock.
It is.
And okay, how did you get the name Barbie Blitz? And did that predate the band?
At the time, it was from the antithesis of like the Barbie doll. I wanted to be like the polar opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the character of Barbie Blitz has, you know, the pink ponytails and the dress that says bitch on it and all that kind of stuff.
Did you ever see Gabby Godhead's Barbie collection?
I have been to Gabby's house. How is that?
Yeah. It's there. I guess I don't know if he still has it or not, but
I mean, I don't want to. I will assume he still has the same place that I knew him to have.
Yeah,
years ago.
He's still in Chinatown.
Okay, if he hasn't moved since the Fox Twot days, I've been
I
to
don't
that
think
place.
so. Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
like
yeah.
because he recorded his interview from there, so you see like the background with the theater through his window,
Yeah.
or the yeah, very cool. I've never been there personally, but I've seen it on video.
It's an amazing place.
Nice. Tell me, just for personal interest, tell me a funny Dookie story to end the show on.
A funny Dookie story.
Or an interesting Dookie story. And if anyone wants some stickers, I got a box of stickers. Get at me.
I would love some stickers. See,
I'll definitely
Kevin, you
get
got
you
to
some
come to the
stickers.
gig on Saturday,
Yeah, I'm gonna
because
try
I
to
need
come.
stickers.
Yes.
See, there's my request to you. I need stickers.
Well, I'll trade it for some materials that you might have for me.
I will do that.
If you found the materials, we could talk about
yeah,
that offline.
I have not found the cassette in question, but I
Oh.
will. But you know what? Everything is going to be with me after next Tuesday, so I'm going to be going through that box of cassettes, and as soon as I find it, you'll have a copy of it.
Nice. Yeah, and anything else, I can transfer cassettes from here. If there's that or any other bands that you've ever been in that you just want to transfer those cassettes, I can do that for you. Just putting that out there.
That would be, that would be phenomenal. I guess as far as Dookie goes, one of the most, it's not really funny, but it's always stood out to me. There was a period when we were in the midst of doing all the Fox Twot gigs, I had a Marilyn piercing done in my lip.
Oh, right.
And
yeah, this isn't going to make it to the documentary, so you tell it here.
Is it?
It's not
should I not tell it here?
No, tell it here, because I definitely had to cut all the. There's lots of great antidote stories that people gave me, but it's just like
Anyway, the short of it's this.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming anyone on this, but the first piercer who did this did not use a long enough post. So I had gone to club makeup with Connie Sir one night. And after being all done up, the piercing popped. And so I put the thing back in, not realizing the post was too short. Anyway, my lip blows up to like way out to here. And I go to a pool party at Dookie's, and he and Barb are like, that doesn't look right. And Barb had offered to take a knife and just tap it and take it out. But she goes, if I do this and you slug me, I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, no. Well, so that gets contemplated. Anyway, it turns out Dookie speaks to another friend who's another piercer who, Dookie, I'm flipping out because I'm thinking like my face is just going to be distended forever. Dookie calms me down and gets me over to the right person to get the right length post put in, and everything worked out beautifully. But I was pretty hysterical, and Dookie was an incredibly calming personality.
Yeah.
And he took me over, we got this taken care of, and that was that.
Was there any blood in the pool? Did you get any blood in the pool?
I don't remember. The only person I know that had pictures is Doug Cox, who used to be in the Hangman. And I don't know if he has any from that day or not. But no, I guess the other stories of Dookie were, more than anything, it was just the time spent seeing what a fan he was of the same things I was. And it was always the idea of, well, if everything goes to hell on stage, drop your pants.
Yeah.
Working with Dookie in many ways prepared me for doing any number of gigs, because with Dookie, I had to watch him like Ron Tutt watched Elvis. And like, Dookie wanted crashes when he moved this way or when he did that, or when there was the mousetrap on his cock or whatever it was.
Allegedly.
So there was so much body language from Dookie playing with him. And like I said, everybody was kind of directing that show. But ultimately, Dookie was right front and center. So there was an enormous amount of ass shaking and doing this or doing that was driving the show. And Dookie has always been very glamorous in what he does.
Definitely.
And that, there's a professionalism to him that only so few have. And the people that Dookie's always had around him, he's always had the best people right in that moment.
True.
And I feel fortunate that my time, right after I came back to New York right after Twot, so it's like that.
Was it like in reaction to the band breaking up, or just happenstance?
No, not at all. No, I had been contemplating it for quite a while, and Twot ran its course, and then I did a tour with a band called The Deep End. And I said, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do one more rock tour and figure out whether I wanted to keep doing a lot of sort of rock and roll things, or if I wanted to go more into more an experimental thing, more of a jazz vibe. And I did the Deep End tour, which was like a whirlwind of, I think it was 9 weeks.
Oh, wow.
It's like 9 weeks with like 5 and 6 shows a week.
Mm-hmm.
We had, I think we had 4 days off 1 week in the 9 weeks. I mean, it was, and we were in a van. It was just
Yeah.
go, 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 go. And we went from LA to Montreal and back. And after that, it was at that point that I got an opportunity to really do a deep dive into sort of the jazz circles in New York. And so I made the decision to make the move.
Yeah.
And you know,
and you're still here.
And I'm still here.
Wow, that's
and I
like,
mean, I'm leaving.
yeah.
I'm there's a whole lot of sordid and sort of glamorous things I can tell you another time, but I don't, it's not worth, I think you got all the high points of the,
Yeah, we did it.
performance here.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I so wish Box Twot made that record, man. Like, that would have been a great record.
I mean, you know, like I said, I do have, when I get this cassette out of the storage, I have.
Yes, I've been hearing about it for years.
I have a cassette of the band at its most on fire.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it, because I mean, I love, you know, it's great that I have video, but like the sound quality is ass.
Yeah. The rehearsal tape is great, because one of the things that I will say is this: Foxtrot rehearsed, 3 and 4 times a week.
Yeah,
this
he was
wasn't
serious
a
about his bands.
band. And because of that, we were fucking tight.
Yeah. Yes.
And in many ways, it's like, if I had to pick a couple of drummers that were at, the top of my world, it would be like Charlie Watts, Jim Keltner, and Art Blakey. All of these guys have very deceptively simple styles, but it drives everything in a really powerful way. And it's, in a sense, what's not there that propels it. Another guys like Al Jackson Jr. with Booker T and the MGs, or this guy Willie Hall that played on the Shaft soundtrack. And with me, I've never been a flashy drummer. I've just been very simple with a lot of swing. And let's not forget, at the top of my king of all the drummers, if it weren't for Gene Krupa, I'd not be here. I mean, single-handedly, he's the coolest cat on the block.
Coolest cat.
And what?
The coolest cat. Just
absolutely. Repeating. And the thing is all that tom-tom beat of Sing 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 with Benny Goodman is still the grooviest tom-tom beat. It runs through every 60s garage record, through Bo Diddley. All of that stuff is very simple, but it moves a band. And I've been fortunate that everybody I've worked with has, didn't need a flashy drummer. They just needed someone to be a part of the band. And I've been really lucky to be a part of something rather than sort of the hot shot. And especially if you're going to wear, in the case of Twot, if you're going to be under, 4 pounds of wigs and regalia,
right,
there's only, you're going to really put a lot of energy out.
Yeah,
And,
that's it was a messy band.
It was, but you know what? One of the best things about Twot was we knew what not to play.
There you go.
Because it was we only did what was needed, and what was needed were a really rapid fire show with a whole lot of gore.
Sounds like Dookie.
And a few cute girls.
Right. Yes.
That had something special.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. And a little teaser for the documentary. Go check out. Let me pop this up again. Here in Brooklyn on Saturday, the release of the Thou Art Continuous. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to read. By Blitz, Latiez. Yes.
And on that performance, we'll also have Mark Sloan on bass.
There you go. Check it out. I'm gonna try to be there myself.
Groovy.
And you guys can stick. I'm booking some great shows. They're not booked yet, but follow the Instagram. There's gonna be some cool shows coming up. The only one I have for sure booked is my friend Rin. We're gonna talk art and punk rock and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm telling you, I'm working on some really killer shows. So stay tuned to the VonPod. And you have any last words?
I'll just leave. I'll just leave with. As you know, I'm a Thelemite. I'll look that up if you don't know what it is.
Say that again.
I will just leave it with "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will."
And I will leave it with like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Help me with the algorithm.
Yay!
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe.